Good morning, friends. Stephen Ben-Nun with Israeli News Live. My apologies. We ended up removing the video last night. There was a little bit of audio issues there for some people. So I'm actually going to go back into this whole subject that we're dealing with the shelling of the nuclear power plant there in Ukraine. And oddly enough, you have articles like this one here coming from Newsweek: nuclear catastrophe, fears spur convoys fleeing shelled Ukraine power plant there. And of course the tweets that are being popped out like by this one here. This guy right here happens to be Zelensky's guy there. Why would Russia fire at itself at ZNPP? And then he goes, Russian propagandists pretend to be clowns, explaining RF fires at the NPP's part where the energy supplying south of Ukraine is stored. The goal is to disconnect U.S. from ZNPP and blame Ukraine army for this, is what he's tweeting there. Well, the fact is the Ukraine army is guilty of shelling that plant. And I was able to get directly out of D.C. some of the real facts behind this case here. It is Ukraine doing it. And as it was stated to me, Ukraine is willing to kill their own people and they don't care. And of course, I was explained exactly why this is happening, how not the Ukrainians, but they're trying to continue to build up the funds for the corrupt government there. And oddly enough, Bill Clinton has been kind of the guy leading the way, giving them what they should do in order to pull all of this off there. So look, instead of me just rambling here, I want to go ahead and go into this a little bit deeper and to kind of prove the point about Bill Clinton. I heard I'll go into some details about this, but here you go right here. This was back in March of this year. Former presidents, both Bill Clinton and George Bush, visit Ukraine church, it says in Chicago, right? So they're doing that over there in Chicago, but the fact is Bill Clinton was just in Ukraine, and he has been working on, let me refer back to my notes here, guys. A lot of stuff going on and I want to make sure we bring this out correctly. Ukraine has been killing their own citizens, and this was something I was told that Putin was just not expecting. He never expected that Zelensky would actually kill their own people. If you guys remember Patrick Lancaster, let me pull up Patrick Lancaster, his channel there. With Patrick Lancaster, he has really brought this out, interviewing the people on the ground in eastern Ukraine, regular basis. This young man has been sharing the stories of the Ukrainian people. And those Ukrainian people over and over and over say that it is the Ukrainians that are bombing them. My wife has listened to countless interviews by Patrick Lancaster. She confirms that what's being said in Russian and the Russian subtitles is very accurate. They are killing their own. And they're doing this in order to get U.S. support, NATO support with this particular war that's going on. So I encourage you, visit Patrick Lancaster's channel. You want to know the truth about those things. He's definitely the guy on the ground. Him and Russell Bentley as well, who also used to fight with the Donetsk People's Republic there. Russell's from Texas, etc. So, but anyway, I was told though that Ukraine is shelling, using mortars. They are actually shelling the power plant there in Ukraine, and they're doing that in order to be able to, for a couple of different reasons. One, as I said, to keep funding pouring in. Bill Clinton, as I was told, is not an actual, of course he's not a president, he's not a politician, but yet because of his status as former president of the United States, he's able to lead them in a certain direction, and that is the Zelensky government. And what he is doing while he is doing this is his suggestions are being accepted, but it's only enriching the corrupt Ukrainian regime, and that's the way it was called. They were called a corrupt regime there. to make those corrupt leaders wealthy. Now, I'm sure it'll also help benefit Clinton as well. He's not just going to be doing it for just them. It's going to benefit him as well. At least that's my perspective on that. And Zelensky is listening to the strategies that Clinton has suggested. And I don't know if that's part of his strategy. I do know that NATO, it was told to me that NATO has been encouragement of the bombing of this facility right here. Now, what many people may not know, about a year ago, we sold, say we, the United States government sold nuclear-fueled rods to Ukraine. Now, most people that would know anything about the Russian and U.S. nuclear facilities, the nuclear rods are not compatible. And there were those that knew that they would not be compatible, but to be able to make money, they sold them to them anyway. They did try to make it work. It did not work. And those rods were stored, never sent back to the U.S. They were actually stored in a facility there, right there in Ukraine. In fact, they were stored at the very facility that you see on your screen now that is being shelled. And that very storage facility where those non-spent fuel rods are there. Now, if you know anything about nuclear power, spent fuel rods are immersed until they go to actual final burial ground, are suspended inside a containment center inside of water. The water helps keep those fuel rods cooled down, and also to keep the radiation from leaking out. So, but they're already used. Their full power is used, but yet there's still a high radioactive contamination. Rods that have never been used are fully charged, fully nuclear. So therefore, if they were to breach that containment that they're in, and I was told that even though it's only mortar shells, that facility is only going to hold up so long under constant bombardment by this shelling. And if it is breached, it'll actually achieve two purposes. And their purposes are, one, kill thousands of Russian soldiers, not to mention citizens that are in that region. And secondly, it would create a no man's land. Well, if you create a no man's land, what have you effectively done? Well, there would be no Russia ever invading Europe from that end, and neither would Europe be able to invade Russia from that particular province either. And crazy as it seems, they're willing to do it. They're willing to do it. Ukrainians are willing to do this. And if you remember, I shared with you some of the findings that my wife had done a little while back on Menachem Schneerson, where he actually was talking about this war coming. They would take over Ukraine. Ukraine would become a big Israel. And at the same time, they would eliminate the Slavic people and the Russians at the same time and pit them against one another. Well, they're being very successful. All right, let me share some things here with you about these things here. Let's see here. My wife had sent me some articles. I want to see if I get the right ones here. While I'm on this, let me go ahead and hit this real quick. RepublicWorld.com. Russia warns U.S. of a direct military clash over its recent behavior on the world stage. Now, that was not stated by President Putin. It was told to me that was one of his cabinet ministers that stated that. So I just want to make sure you guys were aware of that too. Let me pull this one up here. This is where Zelensky goes into this here. Zelensky wants Ukraine to be a big Israel. Here's a roadmap. All right. Speaking to reporters this week, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky described the future he sees for his country in unusual terms as Big Israel. Remember Zelensky, he is an actor. He actually played as a comedian that he would be a president and then becomes the president of Ukraine, right? But he is a Chabad member. And it was Menachem Schneerson, who is the famed, they called him the Mashiach Rebbe of the Chabad organization, that spoke of Ukraine becoming the big Israel. He says, Ghani said, our hopes for absolute liberal state, replaced by the likely reality of an armed defense forces patrolling movie theaters and supermarkets. I'm confident that our security will be the #1 issue over the next 10 years, Zelensky added. With Russian forces having withdrawn from around Kiev, suggesting that Ukraine successfully repulsed the first phase of the Kremlin's invasion. The time is right for Zelensky to contemplate how to prepare for the next and potential much larger phase of this conflict. But what does he mean by big Israel? With a population more than 4 times smaller and vastly less territory, the Jewish state might not seem like the most fitting comparison, yet consider the regional security threats it faces, as well as mobilizing population to the embattled countries shared more than you might think. But Zelensky, though, nonetheless, calls it the big Israel. All right? Other things that should be noted as well, right? This right here. June 7th, 2022. There was, by the way, an actual video that went with this. We don't have that availability of that video any longer. That was right here. These are Ukrainian soldiers that were speaking, and my wife actually saw the video before they removed it. She listened to it. It is accurate. So what you're going to hear on this transcript here in just a moment here is correct there. So it's Ukrainian prisoners of war describing Zelensky as a war criminal. The video message of Ukrainian prisoners of war shows that the commander-in-chief has lost face in the eyes of many soldiers. Vladimir Zelensky, we appeal to you. We are soldiers and officers of the Ukrainian army that you use to let them die as cannon fodder. So he goes on, with lies you forced us to follow your criminal orders and to fight against our own people. You paved our homeland with corpse, burned down houses, bombed schools, hospitals, and churches. They have taken away the peaceful lives of the Ukrainians. They abandoned us like animals without food, clothing, or communication. Zelensky has briefly played and asked, who am I? And they reply, you are a killer, a butcher, a looter, and a traitor, a murderer, a fascist. There is no forgiveness for you. You destroyed our country. You will have to answer for it. Russia is not our enemy. You are our enemy, as they go on to say there. So that was something there. And just to confirm it, like I said, if you look at Patrick Lancaster's videos, he's interviewing people. They're not prisoners. They are the actual Ukrainian people. And they are telling you exactly what has gone on in there. I'm just looking at some of these titles here, see if I can find something that I could quickly show you that. Okay, here we go right here. Let me just see. Can you say where to make the base? Where is the base? Let's see. Back up here. We've been waiting for you so long. For whom? We are correspondents, journalists. It doesn't matter. We've been waiting for you for 8 years. Where are they from? He has been living in Donetsk. We've been waiting for you for 8 years. Living under such, first the fire, then bombing. It hit our houses again. There's our house. We were again without a place to live, but we anyway hope that everything is going to be all right. Everything will be reconstructed and everything will be okay. What have you been waiting for 8 years? We've been waiting for peace for 8 years. Peace. We've been waiting for peace. There has been no peace for 8 years. What was it? It was horror. How? First of all, fascists didn't do what those who were... fascist Germans were better than those. What they do. What was bad? Why do you say so? They shot, they broke the phones, they robbed, they came here, took the car, left without a single question. If I needed it, you can go and look at what's inside the houses. Go and look, the houses where people didn't live. We were deprived of the right to vote. We didn't attend elections. We didn't have the right to vote. What's there? Did they make a base or what? They broke the windows. As they got inside through the windows, go look. There's one house, there's another, and one more. Can you show? Can you say where they did make a base? Where's the base? There's a house, there's another one more two-story. So the point is, it goes on and on and on. These are Ukrainian people discussing this tragedy of war that has happened to them by Ukrainians, by the Ukrainian military. I'm just a loss of words. By the way, just in closing, let me just share with you as well, real quick, and I've probably left some things out I should have brought up. Also, Kissinger says U.S. is heading aimlessly toward the brink of war against Russia and China. It was told to me that even though the cabinet minister said that they would go to war with the U.S., he said it's not to say that Putin would not, but he wouldn't do it without China. So that was one thing that was confirmed. Another thing is that I was told is that Putin has offered multiple different avenues of ways to create a truce and a peace with Ukraine. They have rejected every single peace agreement. In fact, Ukraine said they will not settle for anything less than Ukraine being restored with all of its territories going back to pre-1981. In other words, back before the collapse of the Soviet Union, when they were considered a state then. Now, I could not find a map that would give me the exact details of that, but I was told that parts of what is known today as Russia, right here in this area on the right-hand side of your screen, would actually be part of that land. Now, I don't know how much that would be. Is it just in the green area? Is it where this dotted line is here? I'm not really sure because I couldn't find a map that was pre-1981 Ukraine and what size that was, but I was told that it would include part of what is called modern-day Russia today. And of course, I was told Putin would never settle for that. And so there you go. So at any rate there, Bill Clinton behind all of this, just so you know that, making Zelensky's people very fat, very rich, very wealthy in returns of that. And of course, the whole thing for bombing the nuclear facility there, to break that, to breach or using those shells to breach that containment wall, is to create a no man's land, a wasteland, and at the same time, not only killing thousands of Russian soldiers that are in that area, but the other thing would be is to kill their own citizens. And you can see here the lines of people fleeing. They realize this is coming, and so they're trying to get out of there. They're afraid that it's going to be another Chernobyl, and they don't want to be there if that were to happen. So there are unprecedented number of Ukrainians trying to flee the area because of just of that. And I could only imagine, you know, where are they going to go? What are they going to do? It's a mess. I'm Steve Ben-Nun. You're listening to Israeli News Live. Blessings to you all and have a great day. Don't forget, please support the broadcast here. IsraeliNewsLive.org is our website there. I'll try to get the EMP shield attached to that as well, and especially with the threat of war, you don't want to forget the EMP shield. In the description, you'll have the link, the INL50 code. And remember, when you're dealing with their products, they have all types of products for your motorcycle, RV, watercraft, you name it. They got it to where it protects it. And, you know, it is an amazing thing to do. And when you're using that INL50 code, regardless of the price that's on there, once you use the INL50 code, you save an additional $50. So you always want to make sure you do that, and then you apply it, and that'll save you money as well. And it does support the ministry here as well. So they contribute a little bit, a smaller percentage to us, and we appreciate that too. God bless you. Thank you for listening. Stephen Ben-Nun with Israeli News Live.